Good afternoon. It's our 3 p.m. on Saturday. Oh no, on Tuesday. Okay, I work on Saturday, okay? So Saturday is my regular work day. I have no difference between Saturday and Tuesday. The only difference I would say, on Saturday I can get a lot more done because it's less interruptions. But on Tuesday, it's everywhere. It's just popcorns, right? The speed of popcorns, everything going around me. Today, I want to talk about per diem, travel reimbursement. For a small business owner, like, how do you get reimbursed for business travel? Especially right now with tariff, with things going on around the globe, a lot of our small business owners are first generation of immigrants. And you can imagine they're busy at getting connected or making new business arrangement and whatever that may be. So business travel overseas, business travel all over the country is just be a thing. So a lot of times, I know you know what is standard deduction. I also know you know what is actual reimbursement. But let's talk about per diem this time. Per diem is another method of getting reimbursed from your business. That means your business will calculate a number and give you a check, and you deposit it into your personal bank account as a travel reimbursement, and you don't pay taxes. That is your money, and supposedly to be going back to your pocket, you're not paying taxes. Now, before we get going, we do want you to know our website, communitycpa.com. If you have never come to this website, please do, because we do give you very important information here. You also can make appointment with us right on the top where you see on board with us, and also you see appointment. Those are the places, action item for you, so you can get in touch with us really quickly. Of course, every webinars we talk here, it will be deposited into the YouTube channel. On the YouTube channel, we actually classify all the videos by category. So if you go to the home button right here on the corner here, I know I'm not on the website, but if you click here, it will give you tax strategy and wealth management and things that it has a category for you, and also have a category for Chinese and Spanish, so you can just go into those places to get the information you needed. And in this part, the next slide is about us from number 1 all the way to number 12,000. It is the numbers, we're the pin counters, right? So it's numbers about our company. So we have 5 different office locations. So that's our number 5. If you talk about 6, we have 6 partners. And if you talk about 12,000, we have more than 12,000 clients. So that's kind of what they are. And of course, I have these 2 books on Amazon, and you can get them by going to Amazon or simply look for appointment with Ying. And I have a 8 a.m., 10 a.m., and the plan is to have 4 books, 8 a.m., 10 a.m., 2 p.m., and 6 p.m. So that's kind of my book. And no responsibility disclaimers, so make sure that you take our information with grain of salt and really make sure that it applies to you correctly. All right, small business owner travel expense, right? So after pandemic, and there's just so much more traveling, those are the numbers. Business travel in 2022 was $1.03 trillion industry. But in 2023, it went up, to 1.35. By 2027, which is 2 years later, it will grow another 5.5 trillion. So it is a very, with the internet, we get so small, right? You buy something, you search for a merchandise, you found the perfect merchandise, but it's located in China or located in New Zealand. It doesn't matter, right? If you're a business owner and you believe that is what you needed, after shipping it over, after adding the tariff tax, you still think that it is still better, then you travel, right? So travel has a lot to do with the year we are in terms of how the business is conducted. If you're an owner or partner of the business, you're likely just going to take a lot of business trip to expand your business, right? So for business expenses to be deducted, for tax purposes, your travel expense is absolutely deductible. It is 100% deductible. It is an ordinary expense. It's one that you will not worry to deduct it because you are allowed. Majority of the industry has travel expense. I couldn't imagine what business would not have travel expense. I actually couldn't think of any right now in my head. So it is a necessary expense. Now, the general guidelines around travel deduction is that the business expense are the cost of carry on a trade or business, right? So your business travel expense need to be the cost of carry on your travel journey to accomplish a trade and business purposes. So to be deductible, you want that to be business related. Very easily said, right? Business related. So one of my clients said that, I am from Austria, and so I go back home to Austria every year. But I operate this business here in US. It's exactly the business my brothers, sisters in Australia operates as well. So I go home. Yes, I do go home, but I really, kind of getting into how they run their business, and my brother and sister will tell me what equipment is working for them. And the reality is that they're so many years ahead of me, and I'm learning from the Austria manufacturing versus my own here in US. So question to me is that, Ying, can I deduct my visit to Austria every year? So in this business owner's business, both her and her husband are involved in the business. One is CFO, the other one is CEO. So both are employees. And when they go to Australia, and their expenses is deductible because they went to learn business, right? But they also take their 2 kids to come along so they can meet their cousins. So the kids' expenses are not deductible. So those are the things you just have to remember that we talk about just related to business. If we didn't pay this expense, would you still be able to conduct this business? If the answer is no, then it's deductible. What is not deductible in business travel? Personal travel, vacation, okay? Portion of the trip. When I go to the conference, updating my knowledge, I go to conference. Sometimes I will hear the conference, if the conference is at Orlando, the attendees have little kids with them. So the wife and the kids went to the theme park, and the husband or the wife are at the conference learning like I do. So, of course I don't ask them, how do you deduct your business trip and the conference trip? I am pretty sure, because we're all accounting professionals, I am pretty sure the kids and the husband are actually not deducted. Only the person who attended the seminar, webinar. But you may say that, so what do you do with the hotel? You're going to just split the hotel divided by 4, and the 3 out of 4 is personal, 1 out of 4 is the person? No. The answer to that question is that, is this room you rented in the hotel would be the same room you would rent if you come by yourself? If the answer is yes, the kids were sleeping on the couch, is that either way we're not going to rent a room for them, then the hotel is covered, right? Because even if you come by yourself, you would still deduct that whole hotel. For that reason, those are deductible. But non-deductible is on vacation portion. You stayed 10 days, conference is only 2 days, so the 8 days hotel should be your own expense, personal, right? So that's kind of how, how we will make the right judgment on whether the expenses can be deducted from your business. Of course, entertainment expenses is no longer deductible, right? Since President Trump, the first term, and the Job Act came out, it wiped out that, so it's not deductible anymore. special consideration. So this is where we want to bring to your attention, right? So if the trip is partially for personal reasons, you might allocate the expense accordingly, of course, right? So if it is per diem, instead of the actual expenses, you actually would get paid by a rate times the date. So those are the per diem. This is the special consideration we want to bring to your attention. So other than giving the receipt out, calculating what that is, which is called actual reimbursement, or other than calculating mileage and come up with expenses, those are also standard mileage reimbursement. But what we also want to bring to your category of understanding in terms of business expense reimbursement is this per diem rate, per diem expense. Of course, self-employed and versus employee, it has a difference. So let's say you are self-employed, so you have your own company, your company reimburse you $5,000 on a trip to China. So you take the $5,000 to your personal account, it's not taxable because you run through the reimbursement or you did a per diem. But let's say if you don't own the company, you got the $5,000 reimbursement coming back to you. And this $5,000 was only covering, like your total expenditure was $6,000, but the company only did $5,000. You still have $1,000 you didn't really get reimbursed, because the company had certain rules and you were not able to. And as an employee, because you don't have that business expense deduction authority on the business side, so the business is going to deduct $5,000 because they only give you $5,000. But for you, you don't have a place to get that $1,000 extra expenses you had reimbursed just because that is no longer allowed. It used to be able to. So the Job Act come around, those are gone, so it can no longer be deducted on the personal tax side for the unreimbursed travel expense. Okay, so that is kind of where we are with that. So I just want you to know. Travel per diem. Travel per diem. Let's talk about per diem. Per diem is actually Latin words for per day. So every day. So what is per diem? It's daily allowance for lodging, which is the hotel, meals, which is the meal, right? The food, and incidental expenses, which is, I don't know, I think of incidental like dry clean. You bought your suit and spill coffee on it. Tomorrow is your meeting. What do? You send to the hotel and get them to dry clean for you. Those are incidental, right? While traveling for business, instead of tracking actual receipts, business self-employed individual use IRS-approved per diem rate. So lodging covers hotel and other accommodations. Meal and incidental expenses include meals, tips, minor expenses like laundry or Wi-Fi and things like that. And you can use the full per diem rate or just the meal and the incidental portion. So that means on every table of the per diem rate that you get from IRS, it gives you a full day one. It also gives you the meal and the incidental expenses one. Okay, so now how per diem rate works. Let's look at this one. The rate, of course, varies. Depends on where you go. If you go to New York, it's more expensive than Des Moines. The U.S. General Services Administration, we call them GSA, they set rate for inside of U.S. So if you go to any city inside of U.S., they have a rate for you. And the U.S. State Department sets for the foreign rate. If you go to China, every city in China has a rate. If you go to Italy, every city in Italy has the rate. Okay? For partial days, they allow you for 75% of the meal and the incidental expense. Lodging is only claimed for the night spent away from home, right? So that is how per diem rate works. So where to find those per diem rate? I know you're gonna ask me that. So for General Service Administration website, the GSA publishes official per diem rate for federal employees, so which is widely used as a standard for IRS purposes. So the GSA published that for their federal employee to use, but IRS Department of Treasury picked that up to use it for IRS purposes. So you can search. So I want to lead you to that site. Did you see the site I listed here? You go to www.gsa.gov/travel/. And if you do that, and you actually would come to the website. So I want to make sure that you can see that. You see how they have per diem rate here? So if you happen to want to know how to come to Iowa to meet with Ying, I'm here a lot of times. This is still my home state. And so it's Des Moines, and that's my zip code. If you want to come to see Ying and you figured how much you're gonna be, what is the rate you're gonna pay? So this is what you're gonna have. Did you see that? So right now it's June of 2025, right? So you see June 2025, it is 121. So what that means that if you come to see Ying and you travel from Georgia to Iowa, and when you spend time in Iowa and you get $121 per day on your travel expense, if you do that, you still should keep your receipt. So your total cost and the per diem should not be drastically different. Of course, if you spend too much, your per diem is too low, it make no reason why you want per diem. You might just as well go for actual expenses, right? But if your expenses is covered by per diem, your per diem higher a little bit, that's no problem. It's reasonable. So you can just go ahead, ask for per diem, and still give the receipt to your employer. The reason I say that is not because your employer is nosy and wanting to know how much you really spend. Actually, we don't want you to fall into a category where whatever you got from your employer, you have to put on your 1040 to report that as an income. There are circumstances you have to treat your reimbursement as an income report on your 1040. So as an employer, it makes no difference. So they're gonna deduct per diem rate they give you anyway. If you give them the actual expenses, they're gonna deduct the actual expenses. So that's where those rates comes. That's where you find them under GSA. This is in turn. This is like inside of U.S. And then IRS also, remember IRS just take advantage of what General Service Administration already have and they use that for IRS purposes. So IRS table is right here. So this is where the IRS per diem rate is coming. This is a publication 1542. It gets updated all the time by notices. So I want to show you what I mean by notices. So if I click here, you see this is a notice that issued in 2024. It's number 68. In here, they actually give a new direction, the new numbers on the per diem rate that's different from the 1542 publication. So the IRS has always updating those per diem rates. So what I would recommend you to do is when you get to use those rates, you go to the General Service Administration website to look for that because they are the same as what IRS is having here, right? So the next place to look for per diem is actually for international travel. For international travel, it's State Department. It's not General Service Administration. It's a State Department issue that. So I just want to show you that, you see, I pull out China, Beijing. So this is publication June 1st, 2025, so very current. So it tells me that if I stay in Beijing, as long as I'm doing it between January the 1st, 31st, 2025, then the maximum lodging rate is 240, maximum meal and the incidental expenses is 135. So if I add these two together, it's 375. Of course, in US dollars, right? $375 per day that you can get for your travel. If this is your own business, you just simply times the date. So you got a number, then you write a check to yourself and pay to yourself to your personal account, then your business will deduct that travel expense. You may say that, oh, that's wonderful. What about Mexico City in Mexico, because I want to see that. So this is the link I give you right here. You come to allowances.state.gov, and right here you can actually check foreign per diem rate right here. You see that? I hope you are seeing what I'm doing. And then I would say by location. Now here, I'm going to find a country. I like Austria. That's one of my clients. So I am going with that. So Austria City. It all came out. So Austria maximum per diem is 375, like China. Greece, that's the first city come up, and so that is 375. Then you have 377 from another city. So this is where you're gonna find every country with every city, and look at this previous rate is June 1st, 2025. So you have a pretty current rate, and you can select the date to know where you are going, so you know the per diem rate, right? The whole purpose, what we want to show you is that if it is domestic, you find your rate with the GSA website. I already showed you that link, right? If we go back, folks, it's right here, gsa.gov. But if you go for international, and it's right here, it's allowances.state.gov. All right, so the IRS comes up with what they call the high and low method for domestic travel. So they understand it could cause a lot of taxpayers grief if we just tell them that you have to search for your city. What if in this one trip they went to like 5,000 cities, right? So the IRS said that, the area can be classified as a high cost or other area. If it is high cost, it's a 309 total and a 2025 daily rate. So if a low cost, 214. So you can actually look into that, just go for general. So that would be your domestic travel per diem rate as well. Like I said, if you are an employee and you are claim per diem, and you still need to gather your expenses, so that way it's not going to end up becoming your income. So it will become a reimbursement that you no longer need to pay taxes with. So if it is a mix between personal and a business, you can deduct the business portion. This is to talk to the business owners, right? And you mix your personal pleasures with business. We understand. That is not wrong, okay? That is a very ordinary human behavior. And you mix your personal and the business. And frankly speaking, I felt like I don't have any personal, just personal things, because everything I do is about business. Everywhere I go, I can make that a business trip, because I can always talk to people, hey, do you want to be my client? So that make it a business, right? So I'm just giving a sentiment, not so much of a guidance, but it is a sentiment that we, as a business owner, we combine our personal and the business pleasure all in one. But in terms of deducting it, because we're facing a scrutiny, right? We're facing the reality that you need to only deduct the business that related to your business. So you want to figure out a way to not mix them on dollars. Try to separate them out. You can mix the pleasure, but you know how much you can deduct for business side, right? This includes, the expenses you deduct out of your business, that include you pay to an employee for travel expense. Sometimes there was one time I even paid for a medical bill that employee incurred during the travel because the employee got sick. And at that time, our firm was not so well established, and we provide, medical insurance to cover the whole country. Right now, our medical insurance covers the whole country. Wherever our staff goes, and they're covered. But at that time, it didn't cover all out of state, so they incurred emergency visit expense. So then that is a travel expense. Even though it's not listed as a travel expense, but it is incidental, right? So those kind of things, as long as it is putting employee in the position that they have to spend money so they can do your work, and then as a business owner, as an employer, that is your travel expense. That is the expense you can deduct out of your profit, right? So you paid it. So I have an example here. If you fly out for 3 days conference, but stay in 7 days, 4 days is for personal, and you can deduct the flight to and from the conference, and the meal, the lodging expense for 3 days. All right. Excuse me. Per diem. Per diem is not considered wages by IRS. Want to make it clear. So employee does not pay taxes on per diem payment. Employer can deduct it as a business expense, just so you know. All right, I hope in this short time we introduced to you per diem. You know where to find them, you know how to calculate them, and you understand how to split personal and the business, and you know how that would impact your 1040, your personal tax return. And you see, travel side of things are very fluid. It is changed from time to time, and it is also involves some sort of judgment. Not to say nobody knows how to make a judgment, but you want to make a judgment that is reasonable for your business and also for yourself. So as a small business owner, you can always engage our firm to get that question answered. So you can ask the question, in this situation, can I deduct that as a business expense, travel expense? Then we can go through this and do analysis and give you yes or no answers. And you want yes or no answers because as soon as people goes, well, if, then, so many if and then, after the conversation, you already messed it all up. You already like, I don't know which one was if, I don't know which one is then, and I forgot about what we said, all of these things, which just happens, when you have so much information flowing around with social media these days, right? I always find the social media to be a noise around our life. And the noise is good because the noise make you feel full. You always can find something to do. But don't try to make the noise, make the noise be your norm, be your focus point. If you focus on social noises and you lose your real meaning for that day. And I always said that you can swim in the internet and go on, go on TikTok and get kind of, flip the pages, binge watching, that's what we call it, but that doesn't bring you real meaning. If you want to binge watching our webinars. I am telling you, you will learn a lot of stuff if you binge watching. All right, but other than binge watching, I want you to subscribe to our channel. That way you see the title coming up when we do talk. You see what we're talking about. If intrigues you and make you feel like that's interesting, then you can come in and have this conversation with me right here at 3 p.m. in the afternoon, Tuesday and Saturday. And our firm opens 6 days a week. In case you don't know, if you call us from 8:30, 5:30, Monday to Saturday, and you get a real person online to talk to you. I will see you again Saturday.